Story number 1. The humid air of a late summer night hung heavy, thick with the smell of cut grass and cheap beer. It was 2 years ago, back when my relationship with Amelia was still a vibrant but complicated thing. We're over now, and with enough time and distance, I feel comfortable telling a story I've kept to myself for a while. Amelia's house was a monument to suburban success: 3 sprawling stories, manicured lawns, and high ceilings that echoed with laughter. It was the perfect backdrop for the counselors of the Northwood summer camp to celebrate the end of another season. This wasn't the first time Amelia had hosted a party, but it was my first time attending one. Her parents were out of town, a common occurrence that spoke to the transactional nature of their family dynamic. They were more like colleagues than kin, all driven by a similar kind of self-absorption that I found strangely off-putting. The party was in full swing. Dozens of people crowded the space, spilling into the backyard. The energy was electric, but one person managed to short-circuit my good mood. His name was Leo. He was loud, swaggering, and spent an uncomfortable amount of time openly flirting with Amelia. It was a familiar ache, a sore spot in our relationship. Amelia had a habit of being a little too friendly with other guys, and I hated how insecure it made me feel. I didn't want to cause a scene, so I hatched a different, more devious plan. I befriended Leo. Every time his glass was empty, I was there to refill it. We clinked glasses, laughed at each other's jokes, and I made sure he drank far more than he should have. My Irish and Mexican heritage blessed me with an absurdly high tolerance. So my plan was simple. Get him so wasted that he'd either make a fool of himself or pass out, solving my problem either way. By midnight, my plan had worked. I found Leo passed out on a basement couch, a quiet victory I savored, even if Amelia saw right through me. We had a brief, tense argument, another small disagreement to add to the growing pile. But I couldn't shake the feeling that my petty revenge had tainted the night. Friday revenge had tainted the night. I needed to clear my head, so I slipped out to the quiet solitude of the driveway. I leaned against Amelia's car, watching the stars, a welcome contrast to the chaotic party inside. That's when I saw him. A motionless figure stood at the far edge of the property, barely visible in the dim light of a street lamp. Liquid courage nudged me forward. "Hey, can I help you?" I asked, my voice a mix of politeness and assertion. The figure, a man, took a few steps closer. He didn't answer. Instead, he asked a question that chilled me to the bone. Are Amelia's parents home? He didn't just ask. He named them, which meant he knew exactly who they were. Unease turned into suspicion. I lied, telling him they were inside, hoping it would be enough to deter him. The man just nodded, said okay, and walked away, disappearing into the darkness of the street. I went back inside, my mind replaying the strange encounter. The house was even louder now, more chaotic. I found a quieter corner in the basement to play ping pong, a welcome distraction. That's when the doorbell rang. It was an anomaly. Amelia had instructed everyone to use the back door, which didn't even have a doorbell. A cold dread washed over me. Something was wrong. I excused myself and headed upstairs. As I passed Amelia's bedroom, I saw her, fast asleep on her bed, completely oblivious. I was the only person with any semblance of sobriety. I got to the front door, where a girl named Chloe was stumbling around, drunk and incoherent. After a frustratingly long exchange, she finally slurred out that an old guy had rung the bell, claiming to be a family friend who needed to return something. "You let him in," I yelled, but Chloe just shrugged and wobbled away. I sprinted to Amelia's parents' room. My worst fears were confirmed. Drawers were pulled open, jewelry boxes were empty, and the closet was a mess. He had robbed them. I was about to head back downstairs when I caught a flicker of movement in the mirror on the back of the door. A quick shift, like someone ducking out of sight. I spun around, but it was too late. The man tackled me, knocking the wind out of me. He clawed at my shirt, trying to rip it off. In a surge of adrenaline-fueled panic, I pushed him off. He scrambled to his feet, darted across the room, and dove out the open window, landing on the roof with a thud before disappearing into the side yard. I didn't chase him. I just stood there, catching my breath and trying to process what had just happened. The damage was done. The thief was gone. The night was over for me. I couldn't be the one to kick everyone out, so I did the next best thing. I called the local police. They knew Amelia's family and helped clear the house without a fuss. After they left, I went downstairs, woke up a still dazed Leo, and told him to find his own way home. He threw up before calling an Uber. The next morning, Amelia called her parents. They were furious, but Amelia's indifference was a stark red flag reality I couldn't ignore. They didn't even bother calling the police, convinced it would be a waste of time. I still wonder how the thief knew they were gone, and part of me believes he had a connection to them. That night was more than just a robbery. It was a harsh lesson in hindsight. It revealed a side of Amelia, A carelessness, an apathy that I should have seen much sooner. Story number 2. Cora didn't mind the late-night shifts at the old observatory. Not really. Tucked away on a lonely wooded hill on the outskirts of Millwood, the place was more museum than research center now. A forgotten relic of the town's dusty past. The moon was a sliver tonight, making the star-strewn sky a breathtaking canvas, and the only sound was the low rhythmic hum of the building's ancient ventilation system and the occasional whisper of wind through the pines. It was a good place for a 20-year-old trying to save for college. A job she'd taken because the curator, an eccentric but kind old man named Silas, was the only one who didn't care about her lack of experience. Most nights were quiet. Her duties were simple. Monitor the security feed, restock the gift shop shelves, and make sure the exhibits were clean. She was just wiping down the brass railing of the grand staircase when her phone buzzed, displaying a new email from Silas. He was not one for texts or calls, preferring the formality of a typed message. Cora, apologies for the late notice, but an unexpected patron has requested access to the C Wing. They've already paid the after-hours fee. Key is on the hook in my office. V is on the hook in my office. Please let them in and lock the door behind them. They know their way. Just verify the name. Mr. Thorne. Her stomach tightened a little. The C Wing was a restricted area, a forgotten collection of antiquated telescopes and astronomical charts, roped off to the public since she'd started. The request felt odd, but a job was a job. She walked down the long silent corridor to Silas's office, the click of her sneakers echoing in the emptiness. The key, a heavy tarnished brass skeleton key, was exactly where he said it would be. As she took it, her phone buzzed again. This time it was a text from her brother, Leo. Are you okay? Just saw your location. You're at the observatory. Get out of there. I'm serious, leave now. Cora's heart hammered against her ribs. Leo was a computer science major at a university 2 states away, and he had set up a shared location tracker on their phones years ago. He never panicked like this. She typed back a quick message, asking what was wrong, but before she could send it, the front door's lock rattled, followed by a soft, insistent knock. Her breath hitched. She had no time to respond to her brother. The front door was a heavy ornate oak with a small circular window set into it. IKEA real. Through the glass, she could make out a silhouette of a man, his features obscured by the low light and the curved lens. She approached the door cautiously, the brass key cold in her hand. Hello. She called out, her voice a little shaky. The man didn't answer, just knocked again, this time with a precise measured rhythm that felt almost unnatural. She placed her eye to the glass and saw nothing but darkness, as if the man's face was an abyss absorbing the light. This wasn't abyss absorbing the light. This wasn't right. The email hadn't mentioned a specific time, just that the patron was coming. Still, she couldn't ignore him. Silas had been so clear. Swallowing her fear, she unlocked the door and pulled it open just enough to see his face. He was an older man, gaunt with sunken eyes, and his presence felt like a drain on the air, making it feel heavy and still. Mr. Thorne?" she asked, a polite question that sounded like a plea. He didn't answer, just stepped past her, moving with a silent grace that was unnerving. As he passed, his hand brushed her arm, and a jolt of cold bone-deep dread shot through her. The man, Mr. Thorne, had an unusual scent, a mix of dust, ozone, and something sickly sweet, like withered flowers. He walked directly to the C Wing, pulled out a small leather-bound notebook from his coat pocket, and opened it, flipping through pages of what looked like cryptic symbols and star charts. The silence was deafening, the only sound the rustle of his papers. Cora's phone buzzed in her pocket, a rapid-fire series of texts from Leo, and she pulled it out, her hands shaking. I hacked into their main server. The observatory's security logs from a week ago were wiped clean. Every single one. Every single one. And the access request for the C Wing. That email never came from Silas's account. It was spoofed. It was sent to trick you. Get out now, Cora. The man, Mr. Thorne, isn't a patron. He's a specialist. And his interest isn't in the stars. He's looking for something they kept hidden. There's a secret exit in the gift shop, behind the globe display. Use it. Her blood ran cold. She looked up from the screen just as Mr. Thorne lifted his gaze from the notebook. His eyes from the notebook. His eyes dark and ancient, locking on hers. A slow chilling smile spread across his face, and he raised a hand to point not at her, but to something above and behind her. Cora, her heart pounding, slowly turned. Slowly, etched into the ceiling above the entrance to the C Wing, a constellation she didn't recognize shimmered. Not with starlight, but with a faint pulsing violet light that hadn't been there before. It was a new constellation, drawn in the wrong place, and as she watched, the lines connecting the stars began to flicker, pulsing in a pattern that echoed the rhythm of the man's earlier knock. Frulier knock. The old hum of the building's ventilation system changed, growing into a dissonant whine, and the shadows in the hall began to lengthen, moving not with the light, but on their own accord. A new, suffocating weight settled in the air, and Cora knew in a flash of terror that the observatory wasn't just a place to look at the stars. It was a cage. The man hadn't come to find a hidden object. He had come to unlock something. But she had just handed him the key. The true horror wasn't in what was in the sea wing, but what was now here, what he had summoned, and that she had been the unwitting instrument of its arrival. Story number 3. This incident happened last year, during our college's biggest annual event, Spring Night Fest, held at Lakeside University in a quiet suburban town called Norville. Spring Night Fest is like our own small Coachella filled with food trucks, music, carnival rides, and thousands of students crowding the main lawn near the old Lakeside mansion. It's supposed to be the happiest night of the year. I was a second-year student back then, and like many others, I stayed out late with friends. Norville isn't known for danger. It's a peaceful place, even after midnight. So, when I left my friend's dorm around 2:30 a.m. and began walking back to my own Pineview Hall, I wasn't scared. Not yet. What I didn't know was that earlier that night around 12:30 a.m. several students had posted warnings online. A group of masked individuals, maybe 10 or more, had been spotted riding bikes across campus, banging on dorm doors, including Pineview Hall. I hadn't seen any of that or checked my phone. I just wanted to get back safely. When I reached Pineview, I swiped in and walked through the front doors. That's when I noticed someone sitting silently in the lounge area. At first, it didn't seem strange. Students are up at odd hours all the time. All the time. But this person, he was wearing a full black ski mask. No bag, no phone, no movement. Just sitting. I froze at the entrance of the lounge. Something felt really off. Before I could react, he suddenly stood up fast. Just one sharp movement, my instincts took over. I turned and ran, heart pounding, and locked myself in the nearest bathroom. I cathed there for at least 5 minutes, maybe longer. My breathing was loud enough to echo in the silence. The hallway grew quiet again. No footsteps, no sounds. Eventually, I cracked the door open. Empty. I didn't want to panic. Maybe he was just waiting for someone. Maybe it was a prank. I kept telling myself that as I slowly walked toward the side exit of the building. But then But this time, he was right across from the hallway exit, like he wanted me to see him. His bike was leaned against the door, and a chair was shoved under the handle, like he'd jammed it intentionally. I reached for the small pepper spray I kept on my keychain. Ivre the grease it. I didn't raise it. I just held it up, making sure he saw it. He didn't move. He didn't flinch. It felt like he was feeding off my fear. I turned, pushed the door open, and walked out without looking back. I made it halfway to Maple Lane, a walkway lined with trees, when I heard the sounds tires on pavement, approaching fast. I turned. 3 more people on bikes. All masked. They didn't stop me or grab me, but they rode so close it made my skin crawl. They were laughing, whispering things I couldn't fully hear. But what chilled me most, a couple of them had objects in their hands that looked like guns. Maybe they were fake. Toy guns, airsoft, something. But the way they waved them around, it was clear they wanted to scare me. I kept walking. Steady. Focused. My hand shook, but I didn't run. I texted my friend who lived nearby to come meet me outside. When he showed up, I almost broke down. We walked back together. The bikers were gone by then. That night, I didn't call the police. I wasn't hurt. But I couldn't sleep. My mind kept replaying it. What if they had followed me into the building? What if they had real weapons? The next morning, I told my mom everything. She reported it. That same evening I got texts from a few guy friends. They had been approached too by masked riders, and one even claimed a gun had been pointed at him. No one was harmed, but the fear was real. Campus security began investigating. Rumors spread. Some students said it was just local troublemakers. Others believed it was a planned scare, like some twisted dare or game. But the thought that complete strangers potentially armed got inside my dorm building. That's what keeps me up at night. Ever since then, I never walk alone after dark. After dark.